Hi there, welcome to Tarotland Soap Opera. Today I'm going to do a reading for Taurus energy. And like usual, we're going to do two rows. The top row I refer to as high vibe Taurus energy. The bottom row, a more worldly, shadowy Taurus energy. Because we all have free will and we have to make decisions in our life. And the top row can refer to maybe some of the ways of thinking and believing and perceiving ourselves in the world around us. If we either took more creative, inspired action in our life, or were more bold and brave and confident. The bottom row, the bottom row can just refer to our comfort zone. To move forward in life differently can be scary, so the bottom row can represent some of our fears and insecurities. But in our Taurus energy, some people are more about being conforming to the world, making their life more about the ego or the image or themselves. And you could know some people who are a little more like that. Other people kind of really are who they say they are. High vibe Taurus is people who really are who they say they are and they walk the talk. But some people just like to create an illusion that they're a certain type of person, but it's not really the truth of who they are. But it's like someone trying to create the illusion they're maybe more motivated, inspired by truth and love and justice and fairness, but they're really not. Could be, again, more for the ego or the image or the status, or having someone indulge them in their kind of shadowy nature, if they're bossy or controlling or immature or something. So Taurus energy at large for all of us, though, can have to do with our philosophy of life and maybe just kind of our emotional maturity level, how we view ourselves, how we view the world, how we view relationships, and what we think is just and fair at any given time in our life. When we were 15, we viewed life a certain way, and we thought that was just and fair. And then when we were 25, we viewed life a different way, and we thought that was just and fair. And all of those stages of life, if that's where we're at, it is just and fair. It's just other people have to determine, is your idea of how you want to live your life, have already worked through that phase of life, and I don't want to repeat that phase of life, and you want to live your life like that because you do think it's just and fair, and it is. It's just I've already been there and I've already done that. And I'm ready to move forward in life differently and find people who are more on the same page as me. So, let's go look at the top row first. The reason for the top row's reading coming out is the conformity card, which I do kind of view as Taurus energy. And it's the reason why the reading came out. And we all live our life a certain way, and we kind of conform to certain expectations of us, and we can live our life like our friends or our family members or how other people in the world are living their life. But are we really living our truth? And high vibe energy is about being more independent from your own shadowy nature, things that manipulate you within yourself, how the world and your ego and other people in your life can kind of try to manipulate you to make you live your life like their life. Because we can have these different people in our life and they want us to hang out with them. And some of those people can be stubborn or rigid or conformists in a way, and more superficial or shallow, and they want us, or self-indulgent, they want us to live our life like that. And then we can have other people in our life who encourage us to Taurus can be kind of like the Supreme Court in our own head of what we think is right and wrong and just and fair, and are we more bold and brave? Are we more fearful? Are we more codependent? And we can have people in our life who encourage us to love and believe in ourselves and just live our authentic truth, to go out in the world and treat other people the way you like to be treated, in a just and fair and authentic and loving way. And some people they reject that. No, that's not what we do. Again, we could be more conformists and follow the crowd. We're not going to shine our more authentic light in the world, or even be more authentically ourselves in the world. Shadowy energy can just be that you kind of hide behind your egoic nature or a persona you've created by what you wear or what you dress, or what functions in the world you attend, and groups you belong to. And it's kind of more creating this structure more around maybe conforming or belonging, where you might sacrifice your truth in order to belong. And everybody can have done that at different times in their life, but if it gets to the point where it's like, those things don't manipulate me the way they manipulate you, and kind of like, I don't fit in here, and I might try to work together with these other people, but we just kind of have a shadowy Taurus can be rigid and stubborn, unbudging. This is how you should act. This is how you should dress. This is what you should do, what you shouldn't do, who you should talk to, who you shouldn't talk to. You should be concerned about, it's not just being able to just more authentically live your life and not trying to make people view you a certain way. People are going to view you based on who they are. I'm going to go live my authentic truth and let the world judge away, because they're going to judge away anyway. How about I go out in the world and I live my authentic life and I treat people in a just and fair and authentic and loving way? And then there's some people, it's like, we don't do that. And if you do that, we don't want to be around you, because in our shadowy Taurus energy, we like to think that we're that type of person, but you kind of illuminate the fact that we're not. And so then they don't like being around you. So we have victimhood, fear of death, which can be fear of change, reading, body, and organizing. We all can feel rejected for being more authentically ourselves. And, we all have growing up and maturing to do. And we can blame everyone else, but we can't change the world. And the only person we can change is us. And when people realize that, in the death card, which in normal tarot, the death card is Scorpio energy, which is water sign energy. I'm going to transform my life. I could have been chasing after people to try to conform, and I don't conform. I don't fit, And so I'm going to go live my authentic truth and my authentic life, and believe that as I go out in the world, I will find people who are more on the same page as me. It could be, how you can have people who are more creative and inspired and artistic. You can have people who are better at sports. You can have people who are really smart. You can have people who aren't so smart, and it's really just, if you're kind of trying to fit in with people where you're not really on that page, or just being around people who like to be discriminatory. Shadowy energy can be where people do try to control and manipulate you by rejecting you, to try to make you kind of conform and kind of kiss their ass in a way, And some people are like, I'm not going to do that. If that's what it takes to be part of your group, I don't want to be part of that group. And so people kind of transform. They work through that victimhood to really get maybe clear about what their truth is and what they stand for. That's also Taurus energy, because of our philosophy of life, our truth. And if we feel like we want to be with people who are more loving and nurturing and supportive and encouraging and authentic, or act with character and integrity, and we happen to be around some people who don't, it's willing to emotionally detach from those people. And that can be why some people in your life that you could have been in some type of relationship with aren't willing to move forward with you, because they'd have to work through their own victimhood. And it is kind of like Here we have the body card and we have the reading, and that's a feminine figure, and the feminine figures can talk about how we think and feel. And this is a feminine figure looking in the mirror. Again, that we've got to look at ourselves in the mirror and do. It kind of reminds me of Virgo energy. Virgo energy is about getting to the truth and dealing with the truth and knowing our own worth and value instead of always chasing after people who are rejecting us. The truth sets us free. And to just deal with the truth of it. Not just like we have people who might want to be friends with us or date us and we're like, I'm good where we're at. I think this works for me. We're going to feel that way towards people. Other people are going to feel that way towards us. People who might be more wanting to be in a certain group, that could really bother them a lot more. If they view people in their eyes, they could view certain people as having a certain status or image, and they really want to be part of that group and have other people view them as being part of that group and having a certain status and image. That's really going to bother them. And they could stay in rejection, would like things to be different, but instead of doing this work within themselves to grow and heal and mature themselves, that why would I chase after people who aren't treating me in a just and fair and authentic and loving way? Am I really willing to sacrifice those types of relationships to have this certain status or image? And some people are. And other people aren't. And I guess we could probably look at the organizing card as Virgo energy also. And it's our own Virgo nature that does this inner work to look at some of the things we maybe hadn't wanted to deal with. And I think the more you free yourself from things that manipulate you, you could have a lot of people throughout a period of time kind of fall out of your life because they don't like that you've changed and they maybe haven't changed. And you did do this inner work to look at those things that previously in the death card can talk about keeping you stuck. And you didn't like that things were keeping you stuck. And so you work through those issues of feeling rejected, not feeling good enough. Shadowy energy can be where you're a more codependent energy, where you're looking outside of yourself for people to love you, for people to validate your worth and value. And high vibe energy is about doing that work within yourself to give yourself the things that you wish other people would have given you. So instead of being like a child going out in the world looking for a parent figure to love you, you learn to love yourself and you become like your own best mother, father, coach voice in your own head and standing up for what you believe in. And then there's going to be people who are mad that you did that because they liked it when you didn't love and believe in yourself and didn't know your worth and value and weren't standing up for what you believe in, weren't walking the talk. Kind of self-discipline, because high vibe energy would be tempering your ego nature, your more immature, codependent, wanting to just feel better and looking for the quick fix to feel better. And you're not doing that. You're holding yourself to a higher standard. If I want to have good positive outcomes, I need to plant good positive seeds, and I need to invest my energy in people who are doing that also, and quit investing my time, energy, and effort into people who aren't. And high vibe people are being authentic, loving, and encouraging. High vibe Virgo people, they don't have to be a Virgo, but people who have learned lessons in life is what high vibe Virgo talks about. They got out of their more immature, poor, pitiful me. Why doesn't people make life about me? And why aren't people indulging me? And it should be more about me. And blaming everyone else for their problems. They did the work within themselves to kind of work through, that we all have stronger traits and skills and aspects about ourselves. Some aspects are a strength of ours, some things are more of a weakness of ours. But it's kind of like getting dressed. All those things are important, right? We don't just wear a shirt or just wear socks and not wear anything else, right? It all contributes to being an integral part of who we are. And it could be kind of like that these lessons that we've also learned what we want to invest time, energy, and effort into and what we don't. And then it can maybe be about cleaning up your life and cleaning up your closet in a way. What thoughts and emotions do I choose to sit in every day? I have the free will. I can be angry, I can be mad, I can be in victimhood, I can keep feeling rejected by people. Or maybe I decide I don't want to hang around people who are hurtful and unkind or rejecting. Why do I even hang around them? And then Virgo energy also talks about, in high vibe, moving forward in life, accepting the truth from a place of love. Everybody has free will to live their life the way they want it. Some people are kind of shadowy. Some people like to stay in their comfort zone. Some people you could have wanted to have move forward with you, to keep moving forward with you. Maybe they had moved forward with you for quite a long time, whether it's friends or romantic interests. But there can come a time where we're able to get along well enough and can enjoy a lot of similar things and have a lot of similar viewpoints in ways of philosophies of life or whatever. But then there can come a time where they would have to do this work within themselves about maybe how they do like to be more indulged or be a little more prideful or like you to be more codependent. And when you did some of the work within yourself to work through some of the issues that before would have made you be a little bit more in that kind of a relationship dynamic, but that's not who you are anymore. In order for them to keep moving forward with you, they would have to work through some of those issues. And then maybe they'd have some people in their life who they could feel would be defensive to them. And they could love those people. We can have friends and family members, and sometimes people have some friends and family members who it's like, if you go live your life differently than we live our life, or if you don't make us a priority in our life, if you don't let us manipulate and control you and you become more independent, we're going to be defensive to you. And some of those people are kind of codependent on those friends or family, and it can be ego in the world. And that is what manipulates them and stops them. And again, the truth sets us free. High vibe Virgo is about seeing the truth. And some people would like to move forward with people in friendships and relationships and workplaces, but they don't want to deal with the truth. If they have some issues and ways of being or things that manipulate them, they want you to let them keep moving forward with you, but stay in denial of the fact that maybe they do like to play the victim. And, sometimes people like to be in relationships, even if they're in bossy and controlling relationships. Well, then I can play the victim. And it's kind of weird how some people really like playing the victim in life, because if they get in relationships with people that are more stubborn or bossy or controlling, and they say get in a relationship with them, then all of their woes in life, they didn't reach their full potential, and they can blame those people. And but it also doesn't require them to do this inner work, because those people aren't doing the inner work, for them to have to grow and mature themselves and deal with some issues within themselves. So some people are mad that you've done this inner work and you're walking the talk, and some people got in relationships with people who did kind of expose them to a different way of looking at life. And then those people decided, no, this keeps taking work and effort for me to kind of keep growing and healing and maturing myself. I'm going to let those people go. And I'm going to go back. And it's kind of like going back and trying to live your life in a way that you used to live your life, that at one time had been your comfort zone. But then those people try to go back and they're not the same person they used to be. And so there's some people right now that are stuck because, and that's the whole thing of us coming in contact with all these different people. If you're a loving, nurturing, encouraging person, you provided that to people in their life, and it kind of changed how they viewed maybe relationships and what they thought was just and fair, but they really didn't want to do some of the inner work to move forward with you that way. Then they thought, oh, I'll just go back and kind of do life the way I used to do it. But they could not initially realized they're not the same. But other people they try to get in relationship, like repeating an old pattern, those people, in tarot, they talk about it's all kind of energetically and kind of these subtle energetic things about kind of like how you view yourself and what you think is just and fair. And now they don't fit in with that crowd. And now some of those people could feel stuck because they don't fit in with people who are more high vibrational. They could have quit investing in those people, don't want to be in a relationship with some of the more shadowy people. And then they have to decide, what are you going to do? You can get back into, it's kind of like looking at life as having to kind of roll this ball up a slight incline. And it's just slow, steady steps. But we can think we can go back and like rest for a while in a way. But sometimes that doesn't work out, and actually the ball kind of slides down the incline and we end up kind of in a much worse place than we were. And I think it's all part of trying to show us that we weren't supposed to try to go back to that old phase of life, and we need to do this work because we were meant to move forward in life. And I talk about it all the times in my readings, but like with my nesting dolls over there, we had these different phases of life, age 15, age 18, age 21, age 25, and we had to shed an old layer of ourselves because we kind of outgrow that phase. We've learned everything we needed to learn there. It's dead. And some people right now could feel like they're in a relationship where initially it could have seemed okay, or maybe they were a more loving, encouraging person and thinking they could change someone, or they got in the relationship, they could have been on the same page, but as time went by, there's no guarantees when people are going to kind of drift their life off into the ditch, and then they want to keep driving their life, kind of riding in the ditch of life instead of staying between the bumper rails. And now some other people feel stuck in something they don't want to be in anymore, and could feel like now, if they weren't seeing it before, maybe it wasn't happening before, but maybe now people are being more manipulative or more stubborn or more rejecting or more hurtful. And some people could be struggling because of, we can all want things to work out the way we wanted them to work out, but the people that we're working with have to want things to work out that way also. Otherwise, like, our truth is different and how we want to move forward is different. And we have to do this work kind of within ourselves to work through all those things in our head. You know, high vibe energy is adhering to a higher truth and justice. That when something is unjust and unfair, and not everybody's got to know our business when we're in certain situations or when we leave. But it can be really hard because, you know, we wanted things to work. Then we can struggle with the fact that in our more worldly nature, you know, kind of looking at those things of the status and the image and the stability and the security. And, you know, as human beings, we want those things, and we wanted those relationships to work out the way we wanted. And if someone's kind of wanting us to not live our truth, and we can't be more independent, invest in our unique talents, skills, and interests, be more authentically just ourselves, and like, you have to do it this way or we'll like punish you in a way, you know, or reject you in a way. Are they willing to do that work? And then some people are starting to do that work within themselves to love and believe in themselves, to stand up for what they believe in. And there's always going to be your own shadow nature that doesn't want you to love and believe in yourself, because you have your dualistic nature. Your shadowy nature wants to be in the driver's seat of your life. And there's also people in your life and people in the world who are more immature, shadowy, lustful, greedy, that want you to be in more shadowy energy, to indulge them also in their more shadowy ways. So your own shadow nature is always going to be trying to stop you. Other kind of shadowy people, going to be hurtful, going to be unkind, be rude, be snobby, be whatever, to try to get you to stop walking the talk. High vibe energy wants you to love and believe in yourself, live your authentic truth, shine your authentic light, be a good leader in the world, maintain your independence from your own shadowy nature and people in the world who are more shadowy. Keep staying focused on truth and love, wish people peace and love, and keep moving on. So let's go look at the bottom row. We have the martyr, criticism. Your words have power beyond the infinite understanding of your planetary mind. Betrayal, laziness, risk, overachiever, and sex. Well, again, some people like to play the martyr. They can get in a relationship with people who they could feel have some shadowy ways of being, because then they get to play the victim. So some people purposely like to present themselves as high vibe, like, I have a certain status and image, and I'm such an upstanding citizen, and I'm so just and fair and loving and encouraging. But really, they end up actually wanting to be in relationships, maybe, that with people who they think might do some shadowy things, just so they can kind of play the victim and criticize and complain about them. And then with the betrayal and the laziness, you know, how long, and we can all do that. I never thought of it until after I started doing tarot, but sometimes we don't get in relationships with people who are more loving and encouraging of us because we haven't really learned to love and believe in ourselves, but we can be loving and nurturing to other people. The difference is, and the reason why I think people who are like loving and encouraging people, who really do want other people to heal and grow and mature themselves, can get in relationships with people who seem a lot like them, except for the fact that the other people don't want, It's like for you to heal or grow and mature yourself only to a certain degree. So you don't ever step out of their comfort zone, and you keep maybe making your life a little bit more about them and being codependent on them. If you heal and grow and mature yourself to a way that is good for their ego and their image and their status, that works out okay. But if it ever gets to be where they would have to do some inner work, then it's like, how dare you? I could have gotten in a relationship with you when maybe you'd kind of run your life off in the ditch some, and I seem like I was coming in being like a savior in your life, and I want to look like I'm a good person in the world by maybe providing stability or security and some love and nurturing in your life, but I always basically want you to stay in, be like a loving person, but don't love yourself. Don't change. Work together with me. Make your life maybe more about the ego and the image and the status to look like a certain type of person, but I don't do that work within myself, so I don't want you to do that work within yourself, except to live up to a certain standard or have a certain image or reputation in the world. And they can try to go get in relationships with people maybe who they think and view as being like a loving person who just hasn't learned to love themselves and has maybe went through an ending or a breakup and might be sad, or has just been in relationships with people who didn't also encourage them to like love and believe in themselves. And so you can have those kind of similarities with people where you could have similar family backgrounds where everybody was about conforming and nobody was really encouraged to really love and believe in themselves and step outside of societal norms, and the most important thing was to have a certain image and status. But you're someone who's more puts in work and effort from truth and love in relationships, but you might reject people who want to love you because you haven't learned to love yourself. Hopefully you get what I'm saying. And so you can reject the more people who are aligned with your more loving nature because you still have these things that manipulate you. And then there's people in the world that want to come in and pretend like they are on the same page as you and you should get in a relationship with them, but they don't ever plan to quit more conforming to the world. And the whole reason you could have been drawn to people like that, and the whole thing is we can repeat patterns over and over, that you can get in a relationship with someone who could remind you, and you might not realize it till you've been in a relationship with them for quite a long time, that it's like, oh my gosh, I never realized you remind me of, this is kind of the relationship dynamic I had with my mom or my dad. And it's a way to try to get us to deal with those issues. And if we aren't free willingly kind of doing this work and acknowledging to ourselves, like a person could just do it out loud, if they're going for a walk where no one else is around, or out loud, even if other people are around, or journaling or whatever, or talking to yourself in your car, where you just acknowledge, when these things happened and, I felt like, I felt like these people weren't very loving and encouraging or supportive, didn't really seem to give a damn, didn't really pay attention, weren't very nurturing, loving, whatever, and it's almost kind of good in a way, and we kind of go down into the self-pity of some of those things. It does kind of illuminate, and of course, as we get older and have children of our own, or have more life experience, as children, we do kind of think everything should orient around us. And because we're not maybe more bold or brave or confident, we can blame everyone else in our life for the fact that we're not. But there comes a time we're not children anymore. And we do have the free will to, do I have to keep staying in that energy? Do I, I can't change the past. The past is over. But I have the free will to invest in loving myself, being a positive voice in my own head, not do negative self-criticism. But anyway, you can get in relationships with people who are happier in that energy. And initially, they could like to think that I don't know, it's like kind of getting in a relationship with someone beneath them. And so then they can like to criticize the other people that they're not good enough, and to kind of a false sense of self-esteem, of feeling better about yourself. Well, who likes to be in a relationship with someone, if we're not getting in a relationship where people are challenging us to heal and grow and mature ourselves, we can get in relationships with other people where it is kind of like, well, no, you need to heal and grow and mature yourself. And, then we can seem like the overachiever, and we're so stable and we're so grounded and we're so loving, but you have these problems. But why are we getting in a relationship with someone who kind of has those issues or those problems to begin with? Well, because then I'd have to work through my own issues to be willing to be in a relationship with someone who's not in more shadowy energy, which does challenge me to, if I'm going to keep moving forward with them in a relationship, I have to maintain my balance and work through my issues so that I don't act in a more negative manner. And if you've been in a relationship where it was hard, because there can be some things that you kind of like to do or indulge in. And sometimes, when you get in relationships, people don't want you doing some of those things, or to the extent or the degree that you do them. And our shadow nature kind of wants us to be in our ego about those people. Well, those self-righteous whatever, and who do they think they are? And we kind of don't want to believe the truth, and we want to kind of keep indulging ourselves in our more immature ways of being. And I think we could kind of look at the sex card is kind of our life force energy, which fire sign energy. In our fire sign energy, there are these things of the world that we want to indulge in to feel better or make our life about. And, tell other people to beat it. If you don't like the way I live my life, then you can go find someone else to be in a relationship with. If any of you have been in that spot where you kind of realize that you maybe needed to take some valid criticism, didn't want to see the truth, but you kind of saw how you were kind of indulging yourself, and that if you kept doing that, you were going to have some people that you were going to keep out of your life. And then you'd probably play the victim and the martyr, and you'd criticize that other person as being too judgmental or too bossy or too controlling. But part of it could have been that we had some issues we needed to work through, but we hadn't wanted to work through. But the people who did do it and did work through it and kind of got inspired that I don't want to keep repeating an old pattern. I've already been there before. I've been in relationships with people who are more, in their own degree, kind of bossy or controlling or immature, don't act with character and integrity. So then you can get, you kind of get out of those relationships or friendships or jobs. You go get in another one. But it's just like in tarot, we have the pages and the knights and the kings and the queens and the emperor and the empress and the high priestess and the hierophant. As children, we kind of deal with these kind of dynamics, but on the scale, hopefully, of normal childhood issues, bullying, rejection, immaturity, and stuff like that. And then knights would kind of be maybe 18 to 25. It's kind of a regurgitation of the same, because there is no new thing under the sun. It's kind of like all these same lessons, but at a different scale. And then people can be more subtle, and people can hide that they're more bossy or controlling or immature or manipulative or egotistical or self-centered. And then we go to the kings and queens, and hopefully we learn some valuable lessons at that phase of life. And then, again, as kings and queens, we kind of learn those lessons again, but at another scale and level. So that's what this is kind of making me think of, is that people had some life experience under their belt. And some people did get to that point where they were willing to, I don't want to go back and repeat that pattern. I've already kind of been there and done that. I need, even though there's a part of me that kind of wants to be a little defiant about it, if I don't, I'm going to keep repeating this pattern. And shadowy energy can be kind of these things that kind of make our life a little hellish, right? And not happy. And there's a part of ourself. I was just trying to look to see if it looked like a man or a woman's hand, but we just really don't want to repeat that pattern, even though I guess I'm seeing, since that's green and the next card underneath it is rejection, which kind of makes me think of jealousy. Again, we'd kind of like the people that weren't requiring more of us to change. But those people weren't willing to change. We didn't like being in a relationship with them. Well, then we can get in a relationship with someone who seems to be more stable and grounded. And it does kind of force us to do some of this work within ourselves. We don't want to go back and repeat that pattern. So we do this work within ourselves. But then the same thing can kind of happen in that relationship. It was maybe a much more stable, grounded, mature relationship than when we were in our more immature energies of maybe the knights or the kings or the queens that we were working through. But even in that relationship, again, are people still a little bit more playing the victim, or want to play the martyr, or guilt trip people, or not really want to put in work and effort? And it's really the same story again. It's just learning the story over and over and over. And are we willing to keep being tempted, just like we were when we were kids, and when we were in junior high, when we were in high school, and when we were in college or whatever? It's just kind of maybe at a bigger scale of it makes us dig down through another layer of our fears and our insecurities, and wanting other people to change, not wanting to deal with the truth that when people show us the truth of who they are, and at any time in life, people could have been wonderful, great, we all got along, and there's no, at what point in time, either do some shadowy things that people kind of had buried underneath the surface kind of start to come to the surface, or they start to kind of drift in that direction. There's no telling when people, because it's a constant thing to kind of stay between the bumper guards, and when people can drive their life kind of and be drifting off into the ditch. And do we stand up for ourselves? Do we tell people, this is unacceptable? I would like to move forward in a just and fair and truthful and loving manner, but it's kind of like there's always, because we have these things to shed within ourselves, and putting our faith and trust more in wanting to work with these things of the world, or in our shadowy egoic nature, thinking we're the boss and we're in charge. It's like, no, you're not. Did you not see this ended? This became dead. Somewhere, people quit working together more cooperatively or from love. And everybody had the free will choice to keep putting in work and effort to act with character and integrity and in truth and love, or to think, I'm good, let's stay here. Let's just maybe keep doing this. But now that you've seen some of my more shadowy ways have come out, are you afraid of standing up and believing in yourself? Are you going to give up your dreams? Because again, it's hard to just give up and let go of things that we'd maybe put a lot of work and effort into. And sometimes we realize we can get in relationships with people that it looks like they're a high vibe person. But as time goes by, we can kind of realize they kind of have some of these shadowy ways of being, or never want to give birth to anything new, never want to step out of their comfort zone, have maybe a lot of different things that manipulate them and ways of viewing life and relationships. It was a whole nother layer of understanding about what other people's truth is and what they think is just and fair. And if we're willing to accept the truth of it, and it's like, no, if things aren't just and fair, I am not going to let my more worldly, egoic nature manipulate me and other people in more shadowy energy to make me keep staying in a little bit of hell. Because I think in a world of duality, shadowy energy tries to create a little hell on earth, high vibe energy tries to create a little heaven on earth. And I'm going to invest in that truth. And I'm going to believe that the divine has a plan for my life, and the divine doesn't want me to stay in something that's, shadowy energy represented by the devil, these things that are oppressive and restrictive and confining and not loving and maybe abusive, but kind of imprisoning. I am meant to keep growing and maturing myself, and I want to be in relationships with people who are doing that too. And if that's not you, I wish you peace. I guess our journey came to an end. I am ready to keep moving forward. I've offered you truth and love to move forward with me, and you don't want to do that. Okay. So you walk your talk and your truth, and they're going to go walk their talk and their truth, and they're going to repeat an old pattern for as many times as they want until they're tired of repeating that pattern, if ever. In the meantime, you are going to move forward. And you are going to keep walking the talk. And if that means Taurus also, with the rejection card here, Taurus also is represented in the tarot deck by the Five of Pentacles, where you can kind of feel like you go through this period of feeling left out in the cold. But you offer yourself that truth and love to, and this, I'm kind of looking at this as 3 Virgo energies, which as we keep doing that work within ourselves and we work through kind of the emotional confusion and the pain and the heartbreak, we see through some illusion that we had. And the more we see some people in our life doing what they're doing, we kind of see through the illusion of them and that they're not maybe really who we thought they were, and they might wear a very good false mask, and they might almost be a pillar of society, but they really don't walk the talk, and we see through those illusions. And then, so we go from the 5 to the 6 to the 7 to the 8. The 5, we feel left out in the cold, we walk our talk, we offer ourselves what we wish other people would have offered us. We keep moving forward in truth and love. In the 6 of Pentacles, we end up feeling more balanced and stable within ourselves again. In the 7 of Pentacles, We're getting ready and considering what we want to invest in next and being careful about who and what we invest in because we've learned all these different lessons in life and realized as people get older, some people really are still like a 15, 18, 21, 25-year-old emotionally. And now you could be 35 or 45 and you just realize that these people, you know, some people aren't who they present themselves to be, you know? And they could have status and image or money or attractive or charming or stability and whatever, but it doesn't mean they have the emotional maturity level. And this whole process has helped you grow up and mature yourself, got you to deal with some of these issues within yourself so those things don't manipulate you the way they used to where you could have gotten in relationships before because of some of those issues. Now those won't be driving factors in your life. And some of those driving factors in our life, they can be kind of subconscious, we don't even really realize, because we're drawn and attracted to certain people. Sometimes out of lust and greed and pride and ego and fear and codependency, but other times because we have some valuable life lessons to learn from them to help us work through some of those issues that we kind of have buried within ourselves, because it will force us to deal with those issues. And then in the Eight of Pentacles, we're looking to the future and moving on to close out a cycle where I don't want to repeat. I learned the lesson I was meant to learn from this. I don't want to repeat that pattern. I'm not the same person I was, so therefore I wouldn't get back in that degree of a particular type of relationship. I'm always dealing with people that they have their complex human being nature. I have mine. I'm going to walk the talk. If I see other people, it's kind of like what we would put up with when we were 15 and 18 and 21 is much different than what we'd put up with in a relationship like at 25 and 30. And other people can still try to hide that they like to try to do that bullshit in relationships or friendships or workplaces. But the more we're willing to stand up for our truth and the more people know they maybe can't manipulate and control us, some people definitely won't even get in a friendship with you or hire you for a job because they know if they can't manipulate and control you, they don't want you there. And other people, you get in a relationship and then everybody has to work through issues that it brings up for them, and some of those people will keep doing the work with you, just like you could have people in your life that you've known from childhood that you keep kind of going through these cycles with each other, being loving and encouraging. And sometimes you're ready to move forward when they're not ready, and then they move forward a little bit, and then the next cycle they could kind of move ahead of you and you're not at that stage, and you're kind of, but you can still be loving and encouraging of each other. It's just more challenging and more difficult if it's like a long-term friendship or a romantic relationship where we thought we were going to keep working together to keep putting in that work and effort. And it's really hard when we think someone is being manipulative or stubborn or prideful or egotistical or kind of wants it to be a little bit more about them. And then it's like, wait a minute, I'm not doing that, I might have put up with that shit when I was younger, but now it's like, I'm going to wish you peace. I don't know what's going on. If you ever want to come tell me your truth as I'm moving on, then you can come tell me your truth and I'll listen to my intuition if I think you are telling the truth or not. But I'm going to invest my time, energy, and effort into people who want to work together with me more cooperatively than people who are being more rejecting of me. So what is coming up for people who harness some high vibe Taurus energy that they might not see coming up? And some of you, if you're not a Taurus sun sign and you're dealing with a Taurus sun sign, you can get in relationships with people and you realize they harness a more shadowy Taurus energy and you harness a more high vibrational Taurus energy. And with anybody that you're in relationship with. You know, you can work with people and, you know, you could be every other zodiac sign, because most people, you don't know what zodiac sign they are. But you just realize shadowy Taurus, they're more stubborn, more inflexible, kind of like to have people view them a certain way or like to be the boss. But, you know, high vibe energy is a good leader, and they really walk the talk themselves in truth and love and encouragement. And some people just think you should follow them. And it's like, and they'll really try to get you to. And it's like, no, your truth isn't my truth. Okay. We had 2 cards come out that aren't showing themselves, and the reason is because of the Nine of Wands. And the Nine of Wands is Sagittarius energy being inspired in your fire sign energy to want to close out a cycle. You were inspired to work through some of these things that were confusing, to wrap your brain around this game of life, because it's about higher education. And you were inspired to do that. And you were inspired to do this work within yourself. Other people aren't inspired to do that work within themselves. It does take work and effort. And some people would, I don't want to deal with it. I don't have to deal with it. And they don't. They can keep saying, nope, I don't got to deal with it. If I felt rejection in my life, I'm not going to deal with it. I'm just going to keep indulging myself in these things, or make my life about these things, or live more from my pride and ego. And as long as they do that, that is like the stumbling block to like a Virgo energy of putting in work and effort. But you have to be inspired to even want to free yourself from things that manipulate you. And because you were inspired to free yourself from things that manipulated you and to distance yourself from unjust, unfair, unloving, hurtful situations in your life, as you're going through this process, you're learning to stand up for yourself. And shadowy energy can be where people are trying to create this illusion, like, look at me and look, I've changed, look, I've moved on, look, I got a different friend, I got a different job, I got in a different relationship, I'm not the same person I was before. But they're the exact same person they were before. They just put on like a fresh coat of paint. What they don't realize about you, they could see you moving forward, seeing that you are kind of walking the talk and having good boundaries and looking very stable and grounded within yourself. But they could think you're just creating a good illusion. And they might not understand how you're doing it. And the whole thing is because you're not creating an illusion. You really did do the inner work to detach from an old way of living life and viewing life. You freed yourself. And what they don't understand is that, like them, some of these people in your life, you could have harnessed these energies in a more shadowy way before, but you no longer harness those energies in a more shadowy way. And when you quit harnessing those energies in a more shadowy way, you are willing to cut out those people in your life who harnessed it in a more shadowy way. And now you're harnessing them in a more high vibrational way, and that's what they don't understand. Karma in reverse and temperance in reverse. Well, for one thing, karma can just be you weren't willing to keep repeating an old pattern, because you knew if you did, you would experience the negative consequences of it. And before, in the temperance card, you could have been very patient with people. You know, always giving people the benefit of the doubt, always believing the best in people, not kind of wanting to see the truth of some people. And you've balanced out your emotions about the whole situation and kind of got balanced. The temperance card, like the Nine of Wands, is Sagittarius energy, fire sign energy. there was some things that before you had a hard time calling judgment on because you were very patient, but part of it was this learning and growing and maturing process that there comes a point in time where people, again, the karma card is like the judgment card. People can judge away if they want. I'm no longer balancing out my emotions about what other people think about me. They're going to respond and react to me when I'm not going out in the world in a shadowy, ugly way. But there's always going to be people that are going to belittle and berate people. It doesn't matter if you're doing good things or bad things. Either way, they're going to belittle and berate people to probably make themselves feel better. And people who've learned some lessons in life know they don't know everything that goes on, and they've probably lived their own life experience that, and know that life is about learning these lessons that we've all got growing up and maturing to do. And they're not as judgmental of other people. But there's some people in your life that you've already balanced out your emotions about them. You've kind of, in the judgment card, the trial's over, the situations, you're done. You completed the cycle. It's no longer something that you have to balance your emotions out about. And you work through learning what you needed to learn so that you're no longer in kind of the negative consequences and you're living your life differently. So, and then you cut out some people in your life who don't want to hold themselves accountable and aren't very patient or very self-disciplined within themselves. And you're willing to cut those people out of your life. It can be, I want what I want. I betray people. I don't want to put in work and effort. I can be more about myself and my ego and my image and wanting people to indulge me. And if people aren't willing to indulge me and move forward with me, letting me play the victim or indulging me, they never want to hold themselves accountable or get more balanced within themselves. And you've worked through it. Some of them don't realize you're done with it, because sometimes shadowy people will do these hurtful and unkind things to make you feel rejected or in your ego or in your defensive energy. And it's like, I've worked through it all. I don't care what you do. I know the truth of who you are. And I know that this is how you're going to act in the next friendship, relationship, or job, or the next employee who works here. And I've worked through it. I've moved on. And then there's other people in your life that they don't know about, maybe, that you don't want to call judgment on. And you're done balancing your emotions about that. Like, I'm going to go invest my time, energy, and effort into the people who I think act more with character and integrity, and not you. And go invest in people who are who they say they are. And they don't know that, and that's okay. But I think eventually people do kind of see who are the people who keep, even though they might try to present themselves as a person who acts with more character and integrity, people see who kind of keeps more indulging themselves and more about maybe the ego and the image, and who really put in work and effort to be inspired to keep healing and growing and maturing themselves, who really does walk the talk. And then they might want to play the victim, and they'll criticize the high vibe people in their life and betray those people and maybe lie about those people to try to get people to align with them And they could have some people in their life that kind of are moving on in their life too and not kind of indulging these people. And then they play victim again. Well, those people are this way and those people are that way. And, it's never willing to want to see the truth within themselves about some of their shadowy behavior. What's coming up for people who might harness a little more worldly, shadowy Taurus energy? Okay, 2 cards not showing themselves because the Queen of Swords just kind of made me think 2 people can play this game, but so what do they not see coming? Well, the Queen of Swords can be that there's going to be people in their life that wanted to work together with them to bring a dream into reality. They were trying to work with them in Virgo energy, to maybe offer them encouragement, to work with them, work through your fears, your insecurities, your immature nature, to move forward with me. And eventually those people start to feel rejected, and the Queen of Swords can talk that people, male or female, emotionally, they feel betrayed. And some of the people in their life are going to turn their back to them. I'm done putting in work and effort with you. You are unwilling to change. You are unwilling to put in work and effort to maybe kind of be more independent, step out of your comfort zone, be more inspired to live your more authentic life. You let your more immature nature either manipulate you, your ego nature, or other people in your life, or something. And some other people in their life see the truth of it. And those people are going to move on. They're also going to have some other people in their life who are willing to defend them. Probably other people who are defensive to dealing with the truth, or growing or healing or maturing themselves, or taking more creative, inspired action in their life, because they're more motivated and inspired and caught up in these things of the world, or relying more on their looks or their image or their status or something, or the things they enjoy indulging in. And they're going to be in relationships with people who harness a more shadowy Taurus and Aquarius energy, which can just be, I too am more about the world. I too maybe don't believe in love, and I too don't want to put in work and effort. I too want to indulge myself or make my life about looking like a shining star. And that's their truth. Not love. Not growing and healing and maturing themselves. And I think eventually what they don't see coming is they're kind of going to be in relationships with people who are more like themselves, because when they had the opportunity to grow and heal and mature themselves and maybe move forward with some people who aligned with their more hopeful believing nature, they keep choosing to be defensive to those people, unwilling to change, unwilling to deal with their own issues. And I think they might keep defending it, saying this is just and fair, and look what a life we're living, and look how successful we look, or we're living the dream. But I think they're going to have to keep hiding from people the fact that people who harness this energy in a high vibe way left their life. But they don't want people to know that. And the reason the high vibe people left their life is because they hide that they harness these energies in a more shadowy way. The Queen of Wands and the Ace of Pentacles. What drives and motivates and inspires them is their ego tempts them in their more worldly nature. And then there's people in their life who tempt them in their more worldly nature to align with living life the way they've always lived it, or aligning with people in their life who also don't want to deal with the truth, who also don't want to look like they walk the talk, but they really don't. Look like they're pillars of society, but really they're martyrs and criticize and betray and are lazy and kind of more about themselves and more self-indulgent. And they defend that aspect within themselves, and then they're going to end up defending other people like that. If it's not just trying to find someone who offers them more of these things of the world, and if that's what's most important to them, of course, they don't want people to know maybe that the reason some people are defending them and staying in a relationship with them, or the reason they're in a relationship with someone, regardless of the situation of it, it can be more because too much in their ego to admit maybe they had some lessons to learn in life, that they could have played the victim and the martyr and been critical and betrayed people and took foolish risks in a relationship in order to try to manipulate and control people, and those people weren't having it and they left. So the creative, inspired people in their life who offered them truth and love and encouragement to look at life from a higher perspective, to believe in themselves and believe in their dreams and quit making their life more about themselves and these things of the world or the past, they rejected those people, and those people left. And now the people they have in their life manipulate them. It's kind of like, thinking this is going to be great, but that's what the devil does, right? The devil says, drink this, eat this, indulge in this, make your life about this. You'll be happy. You don't have to put in work and effort to grow and heal and mature yourself. You can just put in maybe work and effort to have a certain status and image in the world. You can keep being immature or bossy or controlling or prideful or egotistical or stubborn or self-centered. There'll be other people who will defend being in a relationship with you being that way. Well, yeah. And the people they could get in relationships with in order to have those things of the world, or people who might get and stay in a relationship with them, it might be more out of their own defensiveness or fears, or because of the status or the ego or the image or the addiction. It's not because they're inspired by truth and love. And sometimes some people just do what they do because they want other people to feel betrayed. I know you wanted to have a dream come into reality, but you weren't willing to indulge me. So I will defend someone I might not even want to be in a relationship with, so long as I think it'll make you feel rejected and stop you from getting like the justice you deserve. And it's like, well, no, because I couldn't get the justice I deserved with you anyway, and I see the truth of it. And so now I'm moving on to go find the people who I can get the justice with. And then they thought they were so smart, and that shadowy energy, thinking I can manipulate and control people. And if they're loving people who wanted a dream to come into reality, they're going to feel sad and betrayed and hurt that I'm not working with them when they love me to bring that dream into reality. And I'm going to do it maybe just to prove a point. How dare you think I need to heal or grow and mature myself? And ultimately, because the other people wouldn't follow that storyline, it's like, no, you don't write the storyline in my life. You don't keep me in negative energy. My dream can't come into reality with someone who thinks like that and acts like that. I thought you were someone other than who you really are. And I saw through the illusion of who you are. And I've moved on. And I'm inspired to go find the people who are more on the same page as me. And then they'll be the ones who feel betrayed because their plan to invest in manipulation failed. And they thought it was a good idea. And it wasn't. And now other people Sometimes people can try to confuse people about the truth of why a relationship ended. But sometimes, as people keep repeating patterns, other people kind of might not want to be in a relationship with them either. Well, it seems to me maybe do this and this and this in a relationship, even though you try to present yourself like that. Or you try to present yourself like someone who's willing to bring the dream into reality, because Aquarius, represented by the star card, can be about bringing a dream into reality. And sometimes it's like employers or relationships where people are like, oh, you should come work here, and we put in this work and effort, and we're stable and grounded, and all your dreams will come into reality here. And the Hierophant, represented by Taurus energy, can represent more formal commitments and more serious relationships. But some people present themselves that way in order to get people to get in a relationship with them, because secretly they just want to indulge in the relationship. They have no intention of bringing that dream into reality. But so long as the people they're in a relationship with think that they are this more high vibe person than they really are, put up with all their bullshit until the people finally realize, wait a minute, you're defensive to kind of putting in work and effort and really walking the talk. That's just this card with the fish on it, of course, reminds me of Pisces, which can be about people who just create an illusion in a relationship. I don't ever plan to put in that work and effort to really bring that kind of dream. I just make it look like I am, so I can indulge in this shadowy relationship operating more from my ego, and I try to use my looks and my charm and my sexuality and my status and image to manipulate people to get in a relationship with me. But if you haven't learned those lessons about people like me, well, you just learned a hard lesson. And some other people already learned the lesson and they moved on. And now they're taking what they learned from people like me into the next relationship. And they're more inspired to listen to their intuition now and stand up for themselves. And they are not going to anymore make a more impulsive judgment about people and be more kind of putting up with people's bullshit. Calling people out on their bullshit. I'm not doing that again. What are you doing? What makes you think you can act like that? Because sometimes some people, it's always to try to push your boundaries to see how much you'll indulge them, how much they can get away with. And I think that in itself is a shadowy sign, because people who are loving and encouraging, I've had a really good friend for like 30 years now. Never once has she ever done anything that seemed to try to push my boundaries to see what I would, kind of bullshit I'd put up with, because it's just not the type of person that she is. Why would you do that to people unless you're kind of shadowy to begin with? And the people who've already moved on from relationships with people like that know the difference. People either are who they say they are and they walk that talk, or they're trying to make you think they're something other than they are and want you to kind of go back and forth about it because you like them or you want to be in a relationship with them. And they're wondering, how badly do you want to be in a friendship or relationship with me? How much can I manipulate you to make you go back and forth about the truth? And high vibe people have learned a lot of lessons, and with these 3 pentacles, they're no longer working from that old foundation or want to work together in a foundation with some of those people in their life. And since Taurus is the 5, the 6, and the 7 of Pentacles, and we added 3, we could have been at 2 Pentacles before, which is kind of the juggling. And the whole thing is, again, we come into contact with all these people in the world to help us get more clear about what our truth is and our truth isn't. And that's like the 2 of Pentacles. And we get in these relationships with people, that's the 3 of Pentacles, and we're hoping that together we want to work together and hold on to each other, and that in the 5 of Pentacles we'll move forward together, in truth and love. And then when that doesn't seem to be happening, that's when we quit and we go from like the 5 to the 8. I let go of that 3 of Pentacles of working with those people. I take it back. And now I'm ready to close out a cycle, and they want to keep repeating this old pattern. And from the 1 Pentacle to the 8 of Pentacles is the 7 of Pentacles, Taurus energy. We have different philosophies of life, of what we want to invest our time, energy, and effort into. And I saw the truth of it, and I didn't choose to invest in them anymore. And they had people in their life that would have taken them from the 7 to the 8. But they would have had to quit kind of looking more back at the past and ways of living life to look to the future and be inspired to take more creative, inspired action to live their more authentic life. And they wanted to repeat an old pattern, and you weren't willing to do it, so you moved on. And you could have transformed your whole life, could have done this work within yourself, you could have made offers to other people who are on the same page as you, and you're moving forward in new jobs, friendships, and relationships. And then they can be mad because you weren't willing to repeat this pattern, and now they maybe gotta try to find someone else to repeat that pattern. But the thing is, they might not be able to find a high vibe person, and they might have to settle for a more worldly, shadowy person like themselves, which really is a just and fair relationship, because that's the truth of who they are. What's unjust and unfair is for someone to be more shadowy, trying to create the illusion they're more high vibe and try to trap a high vibe person in a relationship with them when they know that isn't their truth. So there you go, Taurus. I wish you peace, love, and joy, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.